Hey everyone, Scott Davenport here, and in this On One short clip, we're going to talk about black and white photos. I have a photo here that I think is a good candidate for black and white because it's it's an abandoned area out in the Salton Sea. It has a feeling of being weathered. There's a lot of texture in this, and texture and contrast. I think those really lend themselves nicely to a black and white treatment. So let's just dive right in here. I'm going to add in On One effects, first dynamic contrast, just to punch up those details a little more, especially on the chair. Looking at the chair, I want those little fibers to start popping out. So I'm going to pop the smalls up. That might be a little bit too much. Back that off a little bit. Maybe downplay the largest some. I want to get those fingers of fibers, all that detail there. And then next is to actually do the black and white treatment. Now some of these splashes of color and this various trash that's back there, the black and white's going to help get rid of that. Our eyes won't be drawn there. It'll kind of go more into shadow. Automatically, this is starting to look really good. One of the first things I like to do with the black and white filter is open up the conversion pull down and change this to color response and hit the auto button and just get that as a starting point. Now from here, I'm going to do some adjustments on the sliders themselves. This was shot in pretty strong light, so I'm going to start pulling back the yellows, kind of taking the yellow tint out of things, and I'm actually going to go pretty dark with this. I really want the chair to be the thing that stands out, so I'm kind of watching the background as I pull this slider down to get that chair to pop forward there. Maybe play red a little bit and see what that's doing. In general, red's a good one to play with for landscapes. Let me bring it up a little bit. Somewhere around there is looking pretty good. And I am going to increase a little more of the contrast slider and see what that does. So that's, again, darkening those background areas and making that chair much more prominent. Now, one other thing I want to do with this is give it kind of a vintage feel and giving it a tint. Down here in the bottom, there's this toner area. Now, I'm not going to add it with this black and white filter. I'm going to add a second one. And the reason is I want to do a little masking on that. I don't want to mask the entire black and white effect, but just the, like the tinting. So I'm going to add a second black and white filter. And I'm going to leave everything untouched. So if I toggle this off and on, you're going to see absolutely no change. I've effectively done nothing to change the photo. Now I'll go into the toner area. I click on the shadows color, and I choose this like light blue swatch that I've saved. Click OK, and then I'm going to start bringing that up. And this is going to start to add kind of like a bit of a haze to the photo, something that just cuts the crispness off of this and gives it a bit of a faded look. Let me balance this maybe a little bit. Play with the balance slider. This is balancing, the treatment we're doing in the shadows versus highlights. It's effectively a split tone here in the black and white panel. So something like that. And the last piece that I want to do, I mentioned I wanted to do some masking. I'm going to grab the masking brush and I'll flip on the perfect brush and set the opacity kind of low. Maybe at 30%, that's pretty good. Make my brush size nice and big with the bracket keys and just start to take away a little bit of that tinting from the chair itself. Because I don't want to have my subject completely given that type of treatment there. I want it to stand out a little bit more. And I'm being relatively lazy with the brush strokes. That's okay. It doesn't have to be perfect. This is really just kind of a little bit of a treatment, not much. All right, that's pretty cool. And finish things off with a vignette. Again, I want to really focus your eyes on that chair. So I'm going to get the vignette and I'm going to bring the feather all the way down so I can see what's going on. Get the brightness down. Again, a nice clean edge on that vignette. I'm going to make it rounder, almost like a spotlight. Tighten it in a little bit. And then use these crosshairs to center it on the chair. Clicking and dragging to position that. I'll bounce the feather back out. And maybe even bring the brightness down a little bit more. Again, now I'm getting those shadowy backgrounds to kind of fade into the distance and have this chair pop out a little bit more. So let's review this really quick. Let's walk this from the bottom up. So first thing we did, base photo, add a dynamic contrast, Added our first black and white filter and played with the color response sliders to get this, this base treatment. Added a second black and white filter solely for that little bit of a vintage feel. And again, the reason for the second filter is so that we can do masking on just that color treatment. And finally, finishing it off with a vignette for the finished photo. And there you go. Black and white's pretty straightforward to do. The tools that are in effects make it very easy to work with. And don't be afraid about separating different sliders in your black and white treatment into different filters if you need to do any masking.